A very special guest with us today, AJ Daughertry, who is a longtime softball coach who has become a relatively new athletic director. But, Coach, knowing you and knowing your successes, you're going to bring the successes from that softball time and to the athletic department there at Calhoun Community College. AJ Daughertry, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Robert. How about yourself?
I am doing good. When I read, I can't remember what I was doing, but I happened to look. I think I was looking up how you did this past year at UAB, and then I'm seeing this naming of a new head coach at UAB, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I mean, AJ hadn't been there that long, and then I read where you become the AD at Calhoun, and I'm like, wow, that's it's great to have you back in the ACCC. Um, I got to find out what's going on. Was my mindset, and I know Calhoun is growing their athletic program, so this is part of that growth, I would assume too. But let's go back and talk about AJ. You've been a softball coach, very successful at high school, the junior college, and the collegiate level, the Division One. So, what brought you back to Calhoun?
Well, junior college level is home for me. I have always sort of prided myself on making sure people knew that's where my roots were. I'm a JUCO product myself. I went to a junior college. My very first opportunity to coach was as a student assistant at Shelton State. And then 6 of the better years of my coaching career, came at Wallace State. And I had a great time there, great experience there, met some outstanding people. And so I actually live about 15 minutes from Calhoun. And so when this opportunity presented itself, it was really a no-brainer for me. It's the largest community college in our system, enrollment-wise. They've really made a commitment to athletics here with our president, Dr. Jimmy Hodges. And of course, that was attractive to me. And, on a personal level, I have a 12-year-old son and a 6-year-old little girl. And we are, we're right in the thick of soccer and travel baseball and all of the things that come along with having kids in that age group. So, just trying to be the best version of a dad and a husband I can be for my family. And, when this opportunity presented itself, it really was a no-brainer for me.
Let's go back 2 years ago, and you made that jump, which a lot of junior college coaches want to do, don't have the opportunity to do. You did it. You made it to UAB. You become coach of the year in the conference your first year there. Did you at all think 2 years ago that you'd be back in the ACCC within a couple of years? I mean, was that on your mind at all?
Not specifically for this conference. Now, it was. It's always been sort of the next step for me to get into administration. I didn't know when or where. I just knew that, I felt like I would eventually become an administrator. And so, no, I can't say that 2 years ago I had any thoughts of, being back in our conference just in a short 2 years. But, the UAB opportunity was something that I just could not say no to. I was very happy at Wallace State. We were winning. I had been there 6 years. I was actually the assistant athletic director for the last several there at Wallace. So got my feet wet a little bit in the administration side, and actually I was sort of in line to be the next AD at Wallace. So it was sort of in the making anyway. But then when UAB presented itself as an opportunity, I'm a competitor, and in the sport of softball, we don't really have a true pro league. Well-established true pro league in softball. So Division I softball is the pinnacle of our sport. And I didn't have to move my family. It was right down the road. And of course, I had, started out as a student assistant at a JUCO, but then I had coached at a bunch of different levels of high school, 1A, 2A, 6A, and then 7A once they created it in our state. So I kind of ran the gamut as far as levels of student assistant as a JUCO, 1A through 7A classifications covered at the high school level, and got that opportunity at Wallace, and couldn't say no, and felt like we did a pretty good job. We were very fortunate to get the right people in there, both from a recruiting standpoint and a staffing standpoint. And so that led to the opportunity at UAB, and I don't regret that at all. I learned a ton, and we did have some success But when this opportunity presented itself, man, I just could not say no. I think Calhoun athletics is right on the verge of just, sort of exploding. And I'm happy to be here and very grateful for the opportunity.
I've got to ask because it is always a curiosity to me when you have been on that diamond. I mean, literally, physically on the diamond in the game setting for so many years. And now you kind of step away from that. Although, I mean, obviously, you've gotten your hands on it, but you've stepped away from that direct aspect of being on the diamond. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That's probably the part I'm most nervous about. I've never, in my professional career, I have never been in a situation where I was not a coach. And so, I do think that the direct daily contact relationships with the players will be something that's difficult for me to sort of adjust to. And so I've been extreme. Now, the good news is so far, I've already been asked that question, how are you dealing with that? I've been so busy since I hit the ground here. I haven't had a chance to miss it, just to be honest with you. But I have no doubt that as the semester kind of gets rolling and the seasons take off and stuff, that I will feel that burn to be out there on a daily basis. But the good news is I'm sort of the boss. So if I want to go out there and hit ground balls and fly balls, that's exactly what I'll do. But I have made an intentional effort of trying to establish and create relationships not only with our coaches and coaching staffs, but I make an intentional effort to begin establishing those relationships with our athletes. I went to our first volleyball scrimmage the other day on the road. I'm planning to travel to our first official contest this Friday. And then, obviously I'll be at all the home games too, but it's very important to me that I remain connected on a personal level with our athletes and our coaches, because from a selfish standpoint, I think I'm going to need it. I'm going to want it, but I also think it's going to create the best experience we can provide for our student athletes. So I haven't had the itch quite yet, but I've just been so busy, man. It hasn't come up, but I do anticipate those days of looking out the window on a nice, spring, maybe tying my turfs up one more time and going out there and helping Coach Stevenson hit some, whatever he needs me to do, hit fly balls or ground balls.
When you get a job, I think probably the normal routine is you immediately go, man, here's some of the stuff I'm going to do. Here's the things I want to implement. Take us into a handful of those things that immediately popped into your head as to what you would like to bring to Calhoun.
Yeah, I think that one of the most valuable experiences I bring to the table is having been a coach, not only at the high school level, but then also on the JUCO level, which is obviously where I'm at right now, but at the Division I level. And now, sort of sitting in this chair is how can I help these guys and these coaches create an environment and an atmosphere that's conducive to recruiting the best athletes we can get here. And so I would say my first priority is helping them in recruiting any way I can, because if you don't, recruiting is the lifeblood of any program. And it's been my world, for the last 8 years or so at the collegiate level. And so, kind of having that, that experience at the Division I level where many of our kids would like to get to, helping sort of impart some knowledge on how best to assist them to get there, but also how to recruit the right kind of kid that may have the opportunity to go there that maybe just didn't find the right fit out of the gate. So my top priority in this chair right now is to create an atmosphere and an environment where recruiting is easier for our coaches, and how can I assist them in that? Secondly, we want to create a tradition here and just an expectation of winning. And, this athletic department has been through a lot over the years. There was a period there where athletics wasn't on very solid footing here. And now not only is it on solid footing, but we are exploding. We are now up to 11 sports. We will be at 13 or 14 by this time next year. We're bringing in men's and women's soccer and women's flag football over the next school year, so by next fall. So we have gone from, kind of quicksand footing for athletics to, just taking off like a rocket. And so that's exciting to be a part of. But it also comes along. There's a lot of work with that, and we want to establish the firm foundation and take off, and then take our other programs to the next level. And some of that is facilities. We've got some good facilities here. But we've got some work to do in terms of, if you look around our conference, I think a lot of schools are investing in their athletic facilities. And so we're going to have to match pot there a little bit. And we have probably the most pro athletics president I have ever had the opportunity to work with. And he is on board to provide our coaches and our programs and these student athletes with whatever it takes to help them be successful. So we're trying to create a whole structure around these student athletes where it's almost impossible to fail on the court, on the field, in the classroom. And we want to create something where they can come here and be the best version of themselves as a student, as an athlete, and then as a human being.
You kind of answered my next question with that response, but let me re-emphasize or push back towards there is a seemingly, for me, the average run-of-the-mill observer, a renewed emphasis on athletics at Calhoun. And then you mentioned, of course, that you've got probably one of the most pro athletics president that you've ever worked for. So if all of that was not in place, would AJ Daugherty be headed back to Calhoun, or did that kind of contribute to what brought you there?
Oh, it absolutely contributed. I don't want to work anywhere where there's not a commitment and an expectation of excellence, because, of course, there's some accountability that comes along with that. But then, also, if you're a real competitor and you really strive for excellence in your personal life, then you're going to be miserable in any other type of environment. So absolutely. I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Hodges at Wallace State. He was a dean there during some of my time there as the head softball coach. And we sort of knew each other from there, had lunch together a couple times, just in the same cafeteria or whatever at the same time. And so we sort of knew each other and had a background, and that was a nice, foundation for our relationship. But then, he has done a great job of assembling a leadership team here and just creating a buzz on this campus, not just about athletics, but I've been here about 3 weeks, and every other person it seems like I talk to talks about how he has just rejuvenated this campus in so many aspects, and athletics is one of them. And prior to me taking this job, I think they've done a really good job of hiring coaches. We have a great staff here, a lot of buzz about bringing back men's, women's basketball and volleyball, and I think we're going to start seeing, reaping some of what we've sowed there a little bit with laying the correct type of foundation soon. And so my job is to come in here and continue to support these guys. And, I've had a meeting with every coach on our coaching staff so far. And one question that has been the same in each one of those meetings is, how can I help you? What can I do to assist you? Obviously it's feasible. I can't build you a dome tomorrow. But what feasible thing can I go to work on for you on your behalf that you see as an obstacle right now to being a regular perennial competitor in our conference? And I believe we're going to get there. We've got the right people. We've got to continue to support them with the facilities and the other things that they need to run a good program. But, we don't want to be just another JUCO. And, that was one of my fears at Wallace, was that at some point we wouldn't continue to keep up and renew ourselves, and we would just become another one. And so here we're trying to become that JUCO. We want to be that spot where, when student athletes don't get that opportunity that fits them personally, financially, or academically at that 4-year school, then we're one of the first directions they look.
Coach, I wanted to get in touch with you so we could talk and let our viewers know as well what's going on with AJ Daugherty there in Calhoun. And really, prior to you being named the AD, there was just kind of this feeling that Calhoun was growing their athletic program. And to me, when they stick you in the midst of what's going on there, that's just another very strong indicator that there's upward mobility there at Calhoun. Congratulations on being named to the job, and I'm sure we'll see you somewhere around the state of Alabama.
Well, Robert, thanks for what you do and what JockJive does to bring, exposure and stuff to our athletes. They work so hard, and I know how much they appreciate it. So on behalf of Calhoun, thanks for what you do, and I hope you guys keep your eye on Calhoun. We can show you better than we can tell you, and it is an awesome, exciting time to be a Warhawk. So thanks for this opportunity today.
Hey, thank you, AJ.
Yes, sir.